Oh, we're on. Hey guys, welcome back to The Process. I'm Chris and
I'm Jose Caballero.
We took a little break. Usually we're talking to guests, but by popular demand, we're back and we're in front of you. No guests today, and we have a really juicy topic. Jose, tell the kids what the topic's about.
We're talking about the proposal.
The proposal.
Yeah.
And the reason why we're bringing this topic up is that there's been some question from some of our members, and it's a good topic because in order for you to get any kind of real job, not as a freelancer, but as a person who's coming up in the world, you got to put a proposal together. And there's different styles from motion to digital. And so
this is something you're going to have to do a lot, basically.
Yes, and there's different styles. So today we're going to share that with you, so stick around. Let me try this again.
I want you guys to listen to me.
Yeah.
I design sandwiches. My name is Jose Caballero, and I talk about the business of design. I talk about a lot of stuff.
My name is Chris Doe, and I talk about the business of design.
At the center of this operating system, it's about understanding.
Jose, can we just tell them what the show title is?
I hate you, dude.
You are watching The Process. Woo! Yeah!
We're watching The Process. Nice job. Those titles look very nice. We look professional.
We're working out. We look semi-pro.
We're still doing them, so it's
a work in progress, and you guys will see it change. Maybe even this backdrop will change. Exciting things for us in the future.
It's all coming. Let's get into our topic.
All right. So can you show the title card here, Ty, off my laptop?
There you go.
Proposals. So we're going to be talking about proposals, aka bids, aka estimates, aka pitching. They're all a little bit different, and we're going to do it in 3 segments. We're going to talk about what is it. We're going to break it down and give you some examples of that. And a new thing that we're introducing to the show called the Dorktionary. And that's a very creative title by Mr. Caballero standing to my right.
A lot of dorky terms in the bitness.
Bitness.
And
so,
the bitness. The
Jose,
bitness of design.
Let's talk about
design. Designers. So we're going to do some business.
You got to hold your pinky out when you say that.
Designers.
All right. So let's talk about what is it.
So, you know, I like that you put it into this order, bid, proposal, pitch, because sometimes that is what it comes in. And, you know, bid, it means something in motion graphics. It means something slightly
What does it mean
here.
in digital?
But really, no, ultimately it means that you're putting in a price, an amount. You're bidding. You know, like an auction, you're bidding, right? Yeah. It's really an estimate or a price.
It's time and materials.
Time and materials.
Time and materials. And when I first got started in the motion world, it was kind of a roll of the dice. So I kind of made things up. I didn't know what my expenses were, what we consider our cost of goods sold, and so I would just put a number together, and I would make a lot of assumptions
pull it out
about
of your arse, like the British would say. It's like, boom, here's a proposal, a bid, a
bid,
number.
A bid. It's basically time and materials, and it's a best shot guess.
So we still do that, and it's called, in poker, I think it's called betting in the dark.
Betting in the dark.
Like where you don't really know what the cards are. And
well, just let's explain that. If you're playing Texas Hold'em, you have 5 cards, but before any cards are dealt, you're making a bet. And that's kind of akin to putting together a bid without knowing what the scope of the project is and all the kind of variables that come into play. It's a risky maneuver.
It's a risk.
Because you might draw a 2-7 offsuit, which is the worst possible hand.
I have no idea what you just said.
That's okay.
But I have never played poker.
All my Asian gamblers out there in the universe don't know exactly what I'm talking about.
We should do gambling here on the show.
2-7 offsuits, the worst hand you can get, and if you put in your entire amount, what they would consider now pot committed, you're going through, or you're putting enough into the pot, you're going to follow it through.
Okay, that's enough of
poker.
Like poker metaphor. I get it. So the thing we talked about today, earlier, was with Nicole, was this issue of the prerogative of who it is, if you're a freelancer versus if you're an agency principal.
Yep.
So as an agency principal, you have, you know...
You call me a pimpsiple?
A pimpsiple.
Wait, I'm going to add that. I'm going to add that into the Dorktionary. A pimpsicle.
It's kind of like a popsicle, but it's a pimp.
No, a pimp.
Is that what I said?
Pimpsiple.
Pimpsiple.
You're the head pimp.
I didn't say
all right, let's go.
Pimpsiple, but yeah,
that's
that sounds right. So no, the point is that, you know, Nicole asked about the point of view from a freelance point of view, and then we were talking about it from the point of view. I'm talking it from corporate, and wait, no, that's not corporate. Corporate is like corporate, and you're talking about it from a motion point of view. So she didn't really get it at her point of view. Does that make sense?
Let's just focus on what we have.
Let's break it down. All right,
let's focus. Focus.
All
right, so that was the bid.
All right, the bid.
The bid is time and materials. The proposal is a more corporate document. It has time and materials in it.
Yes.
It has a broader definition of the scope. It has some kind of sales material included. a corporate bio, who you are, work you've done.
It also has an approach, the process. You outline your entire process, how you're going to do it.
Tell me a little bit more about the approach. That's a term I'm not familiar with.
The reason why proposals in my neck of the woods and in the world are so much more is you're assuming that you're not presenting it to an individual. You're presenting it to a group of people, to an executive stakeholder group, to a body, to a committee, to somebody that is not just one person. There might be one person who's like driving it on their end, but they have to present it to their CEO, to their marketing
CMO.
person, to their CFO.
CTO.
A lot of people need to look at it. They're just going to look at the thing they care. So the CFO is just going to look at the price.
Okay.
You know, the CEO wants to look at the results. The CMO wants to look at the process. Like, what is it? So that they don't want to feel not included in the solution because they've been spending all this other time and money and effort, and their job is to make sure they guide the approach, right?
Right.
So you're basically trying to make sure that everybody's in alignment.
So let me summarize there. Your proposal, especially in the digital world, is a self-contained document that pretty much onboards them through the entire process of how you work, timeline, deliverables, all that kind of stuff, because there are multiple stakeholders, multiple people that need to look at it for different reasons.
Yep.
And you got what we call is, if you want to build a connection to somebody, you're familiar with this term, it's called match and mirror.
Yes.
So in the corporate world, this is what they're used to looking at.
Yeah.
So when you come in and you look like an odd duck, people get a little nervous. So you want to adopt their language, their way of presenting, the way they talk about things, and you're going to have a much better shot of getting the work.
Amen. That's exactly right.
Beautiful. And Nicole, as always, if you have a question about what's said and it's not coming through clearly, just interrupt us, okay? Let's talk about the pitch now. So can we cut back to that slide, Ty? The pitch. And the pitch sounds like another word, and I hate
It's another definition.
pitch.
The word pitch.
The pitch.
Son of a pitch. Isn't there a show? Son of a pitch.
Son of a pitch, and no, there's a show.
Pitch competition.
It's called the pitch.
The pitch.
The pitch. The pitch implies
Pitches
another level of work, especially within the motion world. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit. I personally don't like pitches because pitches generally are unfunded.
Yep.
It's competitive.
Yep.
Right? So whereas the bid may or may not have competition,
Yep.
the pitch definitely implies there are multiple people going after the same amount of work.
Totally.
Now, if you're doing this for, say, mom and pop, they would not ask you to do a pitch.
Nope.
The projects are not big enough. They do not know enough vendors, and they're going to go with somebody, a friend referral kind of thing.
And in that case, you're doing a bid.
You're doing a bid.
Yeah.
And so when you're dealing with an agency or a much bigger organization for a brand that's well known, they're almost always required to get 3 bids.
Yes.
It's competitive bidding.
Yeah.
And so you're looking at price points, but the worst part to the pitch is you have to come up with a creative solution that's going to convince your potential client that you're the right one to work with. So let's assume that there are 3. So they have option A creative, option B, and option C, and theoretically it's all based off the same creative brief. That's what we have to do.
Technically.
And we spend a lot of money making these things, and they can include style frames, full storyboards, it can include motion tests, video tests, so we're spending sometimes thousands and to tens of thousands of dollars building these things for the hope of getting it. The only reason we can do that is because the projects are big enough in scale.
The reward is going to be large enough, is what you're saying.
Yes, that is worth it, because you know you cannot win every single job. So if you're losing so much money in the pitch, and even when you win it, if you can't pay for all the jobs you've lost, then you'll go out of business really fast. And a lot of studios in our sector
have gone out of business.
They go out of business because they work like this, and we are still mandated to work this way.
But I mean, that happens a lot in
talk about digital now.
Works in digital, and even in traditional design firms do pitch also. I mean, everybody pitches in one way or the other. So you described it fairly well, that the pitch is where there is creative involved.
Thank you.
In our case, at the very large end, I used to be brought in a lot as the boutique in a pitch against my larger competitors.
Oh, you're like the David and the Goliath battle. They're like
they were how cute,
100 to 1.
like the X Factor. Or they wanted to see how different of a solution we would come in, because in a pitch,
you're the wild card.
You're coming with creative.
Right.
So and I remember pitching something really big against my biggest competitor, where I used to work before, Razorfish.
Don't mention them.
Don't mention names. And we lost because the team liked us, but the VP that had the hiring decision didn't know who the hell we were compared to our firm. But the point about that is that when you guys are out there, if you're a freelancer, you probably won't get included in larger pitches. If you're a small boutique agency, you will. if you want to make that transition, you will want to start knowing and learning how to put proposals together and how to pitch. That's an important part of. I think we should do pitch competitions. I think we should train.
No,
people
because
to
I
pitch.
hate pitches.
I love pitches. And
Don't talk about your personal
pitches.
life.
I love some pitches. I just finished pitching last week.
I told you those distractions are not good for
clients.
business.
Yeah, focus on the business,
Focus.
no pitches.
Focus, man.
No, but you know what?
Focus.
Pitches actually get a lot of reward. You get a lot out of pitches.
I hate pitches.
Pitches are awesome.
If you read Blair Enns' book,
pitches.
hold on. If you read Blair Enns' book, and we're going to do this in a different segment in the future called Required Reading, where Jose and I will talk about the books. He's like, win without pitching Manifesto. I love the book. He talks about
I agree with him.
And eroding away your whole thing.
Totally agree with him. What I mean about
Your
pitching
practice.
is that I like the like
you like the excitement.
startups and the excitement
You
of the
love
pitching
it.
and the competition. And
He talks about all that.
and the hunting. But fundamentally, you don't want to do too much of it.
You don't want to do it.
Keep away from the pitches.
All right. So anyways, here's the breakdown. And if we can cut to the slide, thanks. So there's an analogy here that we're going to make to building a home, okay? When you're talking about building a home as a contractor, you're talking about 5 key factors that determine the price point and potentially the schedule, right? We're going to talk about style, size, features, finishes, and time. And the way I'm going to talk about this first is I'll make the quick comparison to building a home, and maybe you'll understand it that way, and then we're going to dive into what that means in the digital world and in the motion thing. So first up is style. Style, I think of as what kind of home are we building? Is it a postmodern home? Is it traditional? Is it Mediterranean?
Yep.
Is it California cottage
Victorian.
bungalow?
Let's see how many
Victorian?
we know.
Tudor? Your
Is it
turn.
the new tiny house, you know?
That's not a term. Is it prefab?
Yeah, it is totally
Go ahead.
a term. Is it, dude, I don't know
You
that
lost.
much about
You
architecture.
lost.
I lost.
You
okay,
lost.
I don't know
Okay.
enough, home
Because the style will then dictate a lot of the next steps. Next thing that you're going to talk about in building a home is the size. How big of a home are we talking?
Size doesn't really matter.
Are we talking about a McMansion? Is it 5,000, 6,000,
Or a tiny house.
10,000, or a really well-designed, efficient home in Japan or in Europe?
Yeah.
Or we're seeing a 1,200 square foot home for a family of 4. Amazing design.
What is the size of the home relative to the type of customer?
No, we're going to talk about. We're going to
family
talk about
size.
that.
We haven't talked about that
We're just
yet.
talking about architecture right now, so people can understand.
Got it.
All right.
How much money they have?
Features.
Yeah.
Is there going to be a pool? Is there going to be
Two-car garage.
Two-car garage. Is it going to have a
Barbecue pit.
sauna, a barbecue pit, a
fire
kind of a
pit.
jacuzzi tub within the master bedroom,
Yeah.
walking
Champagne
Those are
room.
all the kinds of features that a home has to have and needs to be defined. Fourth is the finishes. Now, the finishes is a tricky part because there's orders of
the
magnitude
details.
here. The orders of magnitude.
Yeah.
Because you can go into Home Depot and buy a light for $10, $100, or $1,000, or $10,000, or $100,000. Maybe
Yeah.
not Home Depot.
Yeah.
But all of them will illuminate the room,
Totally.
right? But if you buy something like with crystals in it, it's going to cost a lot more. So the finishes, the flooring. So is it linoleum, which is very inexpensive, to some kind of hand-scraped
Okay,
white
we're
plank?
building a house here now.
Wood.
We get it. We
Got
get
it. The finishes affect the cost. Lastly is the time.
How long will it
How
take?
long does it take? All right, so let's jump in now. So in the style part, Jose, why don't we talk about the style as it relates to digital, okay? So I'm going to pull this slide up here, and your turn to talk.
This is specific to a music-based website that asked us, you and I, to kind of put together a proposal. And what I did is I put together some of the different styles from music-related projects. So here it wasn't necessarily about showing specific styles across, well, it does. It shows styles across motion, it shows styles across web, and it shows styles across actual like exhibition design.
So you're pulling sample graphic references for what purpose?
For the 2 purposes, to validate that we have experience in the music business, but also to get a sense of, hey, what style do you want this project to be in? Like,
Right.
that's it.
So you're reflecting back that you are hip to the music scene and you have
Correct.
good taste and
Yeah.
and you've done things that are relevant.
Correct.
Perfect.
Totally.
Should we go on to the next slide?
And the next one is really important because, it's not just about aesthetics when it comes to a project in the digital realm. In this case, is also the product architecture as it relates to a large site for an e-commerce kind of thing.
This is a complicated diagram.
It's
What-
a complicated
what are you
diagram.
trying
It's
to
actually
show
a
in
really
this?
simple diagram.
Tell me what this really means.
Well, basically, it's showing the hierarchy of application means. This is 1 out of 3. We showed them 3 options. By application, it means by use. So instead of making it by product, which is most, like for example, Apple.com is by product. the watch, the Mac, the iPhone. It's product-centric company. Application is for the home, for work, for
where it'll be used.
Where it will be used.
Interesting.
So we pitched, we showed them, and this wasn't in a pitch. This was in a discovery phase.
Okay, now that you've defined the terms, be careful how you use them.
You know, this wasn't in a pitch. This was in a discovery phase, and that brings up another slight nuance that we're not going to go into. But basically, we said you have 3 options. They dictate your budget, or they determine they will affect your budget a bit. And the 2 other options were by application, by product was the other one. And there was one more, by customer.
By customer?
By customer type.
Okay.
I am a...
Oh, that's interesting.
So we basically, those were 3 styles
I like that.
of navigating the whole site. So you can give them options of that case scenario of which way they want it to go.
Okay.
And of course, being a good client, guess what they chose?
Which one?
All 3.
So much for that.
Yeah.
All right, that was awesome. Okay, we'll review that later, but I learned something today about how to do digital. You can define it by product, by application, meaning where it'll be used.
The overall taxonomy.
And then by the users,
yeah.
or all 3 as you said.
Yep,
all right.
all 3.
Great. So thanks, Nicole. So we're going to jump into the motion world, okay? So in motion, style matters a lot more because the style, to me, determines really the approach that we're going to take and the costs associated. So I'm going to show you a couple of different styles. So when you think of a motion company, a lot of people think of animation. But sometimes it's just live action. And now this is a very common thing now. We'll go out and we'll shoot live action. So the entire spot could be live action with pretty straight editorial. So the next one I'm going to show you is a project we did for Coldplay. This is an interactive music video. So there's 2 components to this. There's a component of coding, and then this is mostly animation, kind of cell-driven animation with a couple of things. And this is a totally different thing where it's completely graphic, very iconic, flat, with just a little bit of texture. And then moving on from that is a CG approach, computer graphics approach. And this is borderline kind of photoreal work where there's 3-dimensional glasses. Everything is modeled, painted,
it's composited.
Texture map. It's a lot of stuff to build. As you can see, it's a very dense frame. It's expensive to build. Here's another one. These are characters that we built, the motorcycles, rigged, hand animated, very heavy-duty work. So these things tend to be very expensive to build. And then there's hybrid approaches where you may have a product, in this case this is CG, and then you have motion design and some 2D, 3D component to it.
On top of it.
Yeah, so this one, you know, it's a different approach. It's a nice and clean look for Mophie. And lastly here I have a music video where it's a hybrid approach where there's 2D animation, but then there's also footage that we shot. You see the hand in the background placing the gazebo. That's just part of the shadow puppet world that we created. So that's great. All right, so now let's talk about size. So what does size mean to you in the digital world?
So size is not necessarily relevant to, like, you know, length and other things that you might have in your world in the
Focus on yours.
Well, so how many user stories or how many use cases exist? Meaning, if you're doing one simple use case that one person comes to the site and does X, Y, Z, you know, that's a simpler site to build. If you have many use cases, 5 to 7 use cases, then that really makes it a lot more complex.
So it's denser?
Because here's the thing. It's not about feature amount. Because you can have the same amount of features. It's about feature depth. And the depth is really about the user story. How far, how much does the user get to do an experience? That's why they call it user experience. And the mistake that you're going to make, and that all people that start doing web and they come from another world, is that they confuse features with the depth of the functionality as it pertains to the use cases. So they fail to do user stories because they don't understand user experience. They pitch on features, and then when they get into the doing, the client starts asking for all of these things and nuances within the feature of e-commerce.
You totally lost me, by the way.
Okay.
But that's cool. That's totally cool.
Really
hold on. You were talking about the mistake that people made. You had me there. That was the hook in my mouth. Features versus depth.
Yes.
And Nicole, does that mean something to you? Features versus depth?
Yeah, actually, it does. I mean, I understand the crux of what he's trying to say is that when you're presenting for these types of projects, there's There's the feature itself, and then it's how the feature is going to actually function from end to end for different types of people and the customer profiles that might be using this application. Let's take Lyft. You have a young entrepreneur. What does the cycle look like from the time the individual calls for a driver to the time that they complete their ride? That's an example of a user story. And he's saying that those get left out in a lot of instances when thinking about features for an application.
Is that right? Here's how you explain it. Yes, you got it right. Here's how
don't give me a crazy eye.
No.
Calm down. Calm down.
I'm giving you. No, hold on.
Calm down.
I'm giving you
the wolf will be here. Calm down.
Hold on. I'm giving you the. Oh my God, these motion people don't understand this. So I need to make it metaphoric. So the metaphoric is, and for the motion folks, imagine if you were to price out only on keyframes, okay, and you didn't actually think about how many frames are in between. A deep user experience will have a lot of keyframes. So it's like a 60 frame per second animation, a super high fidelity.
Oh, okay, like versus the Sunday morning cartoon where they're animating on twos.
Right.
So every other frame is a new
thinking
frame.
It through more, basically.
Yeah. People sell 60 frame animation, like super 4K, for what should have been a GIF animation.
We're all good.
It's been like 3 frames.
All right. So cutting back to our graphic here, so we're looking at one use case is cheaper to do. Multiple use cases, 5 to 7, is going to be a lot more for you to factor. Yeah. It's going to be deeper site. A sweet spot for you is something like the 3 use cases. Yeah. That seems reasonable to me. Yeah. All right, let's talk about it from a motion point of view, length. And we're talking about seconds of content, right? So if you're doing an animated end tag, that's going to be a few seconds long, 3 or 4 seconds long. On the opposite side of that is like a documentary feature film, and we've done those too. Those could be 90 minutes in length. And our sweet spot, the thing that people come to us for, is this 30-second TV commercial.
Wait, hold on. I'm going to correct you. This is your sweet spot in motion.
I'm talking about motion.
Yeah, okay. But blind sweet spot. Actually, we're doing a lot of web projects. Don't call me the.
We're gonna chop it into 2 parts here, so people.
Motion and
we need to segregate this motion and digital.
Got it. But what I know people make sure is that we are doing both.
These blended things are gonna confuse our audience, I think.
They're not that. You guys are smart. You get it.
I'm not saying they're not smart.
Yeah, whatever. Keep on going with your line.
Okay. No, we're done with length.
Oh, features.
We're going to talk about features now. So let's talk about the requirements as they relate to digital. When you're talking about features, remember the analogy to the house?
To go first? Okay.
It's just a rhythm here. Digital motion, digital motion.
I get it. We should be first.
Digimo. Go.
What? So wait, go back to your analogy about the house.
The house, about the features. Remember we talked about the 2-car garage, the 4-car garage. You want
jacuzzi,
the stainless steel, all that. Maybe that's into something else, but. Anyways, what are the requirements of the project?
Okay, so the first one is just whether there is a big, broad functionality, like is it an e-commerce site, or is it a marketing site, or is it a community building site? This is really,
or is it a content site?
Or is it a content site? There's a lot of...
Give an example of each. What's an e-commerce site?
So an e-commerce site is that example that I showed you earlier for
something everybody would know.
Product architecture. You mean like out there?
Yeah, out there.
eBay is an e-commerce site.
Anything where there's a financial transaction.
Yeah.
Okay, where you can buy Etsy.
Yeah.
Okay,
Etsy.
Great. Give an example of a marketing site.
A marketing site would be something like if you go to a large consultancy, the site is pure marketing. But today it's all about social media campaigns.
That's fine. Let's focus.
And it's all about social media ecosystem.
So marketing,
which by the way is actually a really big issue in pricing and in what we're talking about. But let's keep on going. So let's bring that slide back. So look, I'm going to just go through these real fast. Community, like is there a community? It could be social in this case scenario too. What are all the different things that you're going to do out in the social ecosphere? Reviews, that's a site that might just be for you to review your products, etc. Those 3 things are examples of what I was just saying, like specific functions of a site, and all 3 of them might be actually part of a site.
Right.
Blog, again, does it have a blog? These
are all the features that you need to know.
The map. These are all different things that the site might have. And all of them on their own aren't necessarily large and complex. User profiles or having customer profiles, meaning that you can register and you can maintain a picture and a profile of yourself. Some sites have all of these.
All right.
I'm done.
You done? Thanks. So requirements for motion. So we need to know things like, is there a location that we have to travel to, because those things are tied together. That means we're going to be using talent from abroad, and we have to think about hotel and travel expenses. and dealing with logistics. So if we're going to shoot in another country, we have to hire a local production company to partner up with because they know how things are done there. Is it a union shoot? Meaning, does the crew need to be union? Does the cast all have to be union because that drives the costs up? Okay, casting specs. Are we talking about one person that's kind of like mostly used as a moving model, or they have a speaking role, or is there 20 or 30 kind of principals in the spot which will drive the price up?
Yeah.
We need to know things about usage. Is this a worldwide usage? Because there are contracts that have to be negotiated on behalf of the client. Do we need special equipment? Are we going to be flying in a helicopter? Is there going to be a car chase? All those kind of things. And how complex is the visual effects? Because those are the requirements that we need to know. Okay, moving on. Finishes. Finishes.
So the finishes are like that last kind of like what makes it look really polished or not. So in this case scenario, you know, do you use stock photography versus you go out and you do a custom photo shoot? You do the number of visual assets. You know, the content and visual assets is something that sometimes people forget. You know, that makes the site look really rich. Video, are you going to shoot video? And you might need to price that out. And is it, you know, going to be an industrial shoot, meaning like cheap and fast with, you know, SLR, you know, digital SLRs, or do you want to do a much more fancy kind of video thing? And how much editing and post-production you're going to have? Illustration, is there going to be custom illustration or stock? Iconography, are you going to buy stock icons, or are you going to design custom icons for this brand? These are things that take time and that take, you know, a considerable portion of the budget. Copywriting, that's actually the #1 issue that I think most people kind of have a hard time with. Not because of how difficult it might be.
I think it gets discounted a lot.
It gets discounted, and the designer might say, you know, the client can put in the copy. You have to either contractually remove it, which I used to, but then the client will be, the problem with that is that then the client will delay so long in putting in the copy that the ability to QA and to do a final like release of the site might be such a large gap that you lose money while you're sitting there where the whole team is.
Right, so I know it's my turn to talk about motion, but I want to spend a half second here and talk about this a little bit because we're doing more digital projects. I'm learning about how to manage these things and to take account of this. Just remember to pay attention to this content slide that we just showed you, okay? The stock versus custom. And you might think, okay, look, I'm going to build out the site and it's all going to be stock photos. Okay, it's going to be reasonable to buy, like a Shutterstock or iStock or something like that. But what you don't account for is how much time you have to spend to search for the stock, and then you didn't account for that. So I'm going to just throw out like a little kind of warning for you guys, versus talking about stock in general, to say like, we will bill you the cost of the stock plus a small markup, let's say 15%, plus I'm going to block out amount of time. So I estimate it's going to take me about 6 hours to find stock. What people don't realize is that we can find really great stock photography for not a lot of money, but you have to filter out thousands of images. And so what they see is the end result of that filter, right? And you don't account for that. So a different episode I'm going to do on my own, how to manage a website and a digital project for smaller size practices. Anyways, let's go on to motion graphics. To me, I consider this part, the finishes, the look and the feel. Okay, because a lot of things can be done here that affect the cost. Is it flat? This relates back to the style, meaning is it graphic, not a lot of shading, flat colors, okay? And it's kind of done.
Is that because that's cheaper? Would it be cheaper to animate? Yeah.
Yeah, because I can download these things, I can draw them, I don't need a specialist to do all these things. I can build everything in Illustrator and use After Effects to animate everything.
I always like flat.
And they're beautiful.
In the web realm.
But it's still very trendy right now.
It's very trendy, but I liked it because it was easy to do.
It's easy to do.
Easier to do
and
than like
it's
having
really
to do
clean.
3D and stuff.
It's really clean, and a lot of people like that aesthetic.
Yep.
On the opposite end of that is it photoreal? Because you will pay for photoreal. Okay, there's a level when the human eye can't distinguish whether or not it's a CG created, like a computer generated image, or if it's real. That little extra bit of polish, you spend a lot of time and a lot of money. It's difficult to do that these days. Anyways, so the other things can be like, okay, the story is told, but they want to do stop motion. And you guys know stop motion is a very labor-intensive thing. I think it took over 3 years for Leica House to do the box trolls.
Jeez.
Because they have to literally change every component, every frame.
But they make Gromit and
Wallace and Gromit.
No, don't they make that?
That's a different studio. But anyways, are there simulations that you have to run, like particle simulations? Are you going to have to show something?
Coralline.
Yes.
Okay, keep on going.
Thanks. Is there going to be a destructive thing, like is the house going to blow up? Those simulations, require a lot of processing power, and you need specialists to do that? Or is it a hybrid approach, which is generally more of the case? It's not one particular approach, it's a couple of these things.
Yeah.
Okay? So last thing we're going to talk about is time. And time, we share a slide because it's the same no matter what you're doing. Whatever field you're in, time. It's going to look something like this, okay? So there's a line here. So in the middle is the perfect balance, right? So on the left, it's a rush job. They need it yesterday, and you have to work weekends, long hours, and you have to ramp up the team, and you have to kind of build up for that. It's going to cost more. So if you don't have time, it's going to cost you more money.
Yeah, I mean, it's the big thing of what do you want, it fast, good, or cheap? I mean, fast, speed, quality, or cost.
Yeah.
You choose two of those. You can't choose all three.
Right. And so sometimes the clients will say, deliver it whenever you want. Like, just fit it within your schedule. And sometimes there's cost savings there, but I want to warn you about this too. Those projects with an undefined timeline can drag on, and you'll soon realize you're spending a lot of hours working on something.
So those are all really big factors. So to wrap up, let's use the Dorktionary as our kind of our final thoughts. So let's just bullet, run and gun the definitions. So
hashtag Dorktionary, guys. Tell us if you like the title. Okay. Yes. So here's the terms we use today.
So bid, which is actually more around the estimation of time and money.
Time and money.
Proposal, which is a larger aggregate of having time, money, approach, and examples of your work and of who you are as a vendor, as an agency.
It's a more corporate document. It does do a little selling, and remember, it's for a lot of different stakeholders to look at. So it needs to tell your story and your approach.
It's a narrative too.
Pitch. Let me talk about the pitch. The pitch requires you to do creative work. And sometimes you get a little bit of money, sometimes you get a lot, but more often than not, at least in the motion world, you get $0. But it's worth it if the price tag and the profit is there.
And you can get paid to pitch. I've gotten paid to pitch.
I have too.
So contract is really ultimately the agreement between you and the client.
It's formalizing it.
Formalizing what you did in the proposal or in the pitch or in the bid. SOW is what we use, called a statement of work. And MSA is a master services agreement. I'll put a link below to our contracts episode, which walks you through an SOW and through
and
MSA.
The principle is a principle of an agency that just kills it like a pimp.
Yes, and that's what you do. You're basically pimping and hoeing resources. You are. If you're an agency principal, you are a pimp.
We get it.
You're a pimp.
We get it.
Okay.
All right.
If you need any more help, post. Go ahead.
We need your help, actually, to post something from this episode on Twitter or Instagram. The hashtag is the process, and you can mention @theschoolrocks.
Look, I'll make it. Right? I'll sweeten it.
Hold on. We want to do this because people that find value in what we do always wonder, why our audience is bigger. Because we need your help in getting the word out there. Share it, post it. Let's wrap it up.
Jose. Well, I'm going to say this real quick. We'll choose one. We got the new school stickers. We'll choose one person.
You want an Oreo cookie? A giant cookie?
An Oreo cookie.
All right.
We'll send you a pack of a few stickers.
Two
stickers. I'm going to choose one person out of all the people that post to send them some stickers.
Hashtag Pimpsicle?
I thought it was
how are you going to find...
hashtag the process.
Look at hashtag the process.
That makes sense. Thanks, Nicole.
Using hashtag the process on Instagram or on Twitter or on Facebook, we'll find one person and give this.
You can also post any comments or questions down in this episode in the
comments below, and share the damn thing and like it and all those kind of things.
All right, we've learned a bunch of things in the last 2 months of producing the show with Boyce's help.
Like 5 years.
Getting structure, and I think this is the end result of some of that. Hopefully, you guys like the format, the way we're doing things now. We're trying to be much more succinct, lucid, but
we're also still trying to keep it, keep it
fun, keep it light. All right, whatever.
Keep it pimpsicle.
Oh, sweet.
All right, it's embarrassing. When we embarrass Nicole, I think we're doing a good job. Her nervousness, like you said, like she's a grandma. If we make her nervous, we're doing the right thing.
We're doing a good job.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks so much. See you next time, and we'll be. I don't have an ending. See you next time, you guys.
Why do you need an ending? There you go.
I missed that.
That's a good ending.
You didn't get my David Letterman thing.
Oh.
Yeah, guys. Boise says I got my studio. I hope the show is great.
Good. Tell him congratulations.